This is my second attempt at doing this. The first recording came out pretty terrible, and I tried to clean it up, but there was a lot of background noise, and quite a few times I bumped the surface that the microphone was on. So this time I'm in a quieter room, and hopefully no background noises get into the recording. I noticed that I thought I would be able to clean it up a little bit with the equalizer, and there's lots of filters to isolate vocal sounds, but whispers don't really fall into those. So this is my second attempt at making a podcast that will be full of recordings of me whispering and doing other things. Its purpose will be to make you tired, and I stated in the first recording that I made, this all sounds really weird because I just said everything I'm about to say before, but I might have an odd talent of making people sleepy. It's happened a few times where I'll be talking to somebody and they really start to doze off, or that actually hasn't happened that many times, but I could tell that I bore people because I like very long analytical discussions about things that are mostly pretty meaningless. So, not that that sounds too exciting, but that's what I may have to edit out some stuff. There is background noise again. So that's what the podcast will include. Probably very simple recordings. I don't know how many I'm going to release or how often, but it is a way for me to pay back the ASMR community, and hopefully it gets people relaxed and tired. And I know that male voices aren't as popular, but I'm doing it anyways. Maybe a terrible idea, or it may pay off. I'm not really looking for any kind of popularity or um, lots of downloads or anything like that. I figured that if this helps even a few people relax or fall asleep, then it's fulfilled its purpose. And maybe if there's any requests, I'll try to see what I can do for that. But probably no role playing or anything like that, but definitely whispering and discussing whatever topics people request. I feel like this second recording is a little bit more difficult because I kind of rambled on for a while on the first one, and now the second one feels repetitive, but I was basically trying to lay down what these recordings are going to be about, and who they're directed at. So I may be limited on some of the sounds that I could record, and I definitely will try to make better quality recordings as time goes on. everything's pretty experimental. I haven't had that much experience with this microphone and this recording setup, but hopefully this will be a lot better than the last one. I noticed that the microphone picked up all kinds of distant sounds that I could barely hear, and I don't live in that loud of a place, but it's also not very quiet, and there is some background noises here, so I will try to edit those out. If there's any parts missing or it sounds incoherent, it's probably because there was a loud background noise or a bang and I just took it out. So expect that, even though this isn't really meant to be something that you listen to and understand, and if parts of it are a little broken up, I don't think that should matter, since you're trying to relax anyways. This isn't really meant to give you some kind of content that you like hearing about, although I can't do that. I have made quite a few people tired talking about physics, which is something that I do enjoy reading about, and other science topics really seem to make people pretty tired. So I can definitely talk about stuff like that, and maybe look up a few articles and then discuss them. I don't know. I have no idea if that sounds crazy right now, if people would be into that, or if it's actually something people want. I think, as far as I can tell, most of the ASMR content on the internet is on YouTube, which is where I discovered other people making recordings. I suppose that's something I can talk about. The first recording that I ever found was, I think it was a guy eating pizza, and there was a lot of people leaving comments and mentioning the video, and that's how I found there's a whole community of people like that. That was also the first time that I'd ever heard of ASMR. Prior to that, I had only just enjoyed the sound of people whispering and eating, which was really weird because at some point in time, I regularly ate with people who made lots of sounds, and I thought it was a little disgusting and annoying, and there were times when it really got under my skin, but at the same time, I felt very relaxed by it. That's a very odd feeling, but yeah, so in the beginning, when I was young, I had cousins, and we would make this bunk bed, or the lower portion of this bunk bed, into a make-believe spaceship, and we'd load all kinds of electronic pieces and other things into it, and we would pretend like we're in a spaceship, and whenever there were lulls in what we were doing, I think one of my cousins, I don't remember if he was talking to himself or if he was just talking in a quiet voice, but since we were already laying down under a bed, his whispering like that made me really, really tired. I don't know if I fell asleep, but I was probably pretty close. So, uh, whispering and quiet types of sounds, like clicking, and there's all kinds of triggers, I suppose, mostly consistent with what other people record on YouTube. Um, Crinkling noises, and I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but there's a lot. Those noises and the whispering just really overwhelmed me almost, and I don't think I thought about it for a real long time. It was probably years and years later that I um, I noticed the food thing really made me relaxed and um, helped me fall asleep. There were a couple movies that I listened to for a long time while I was falling asleep. Um, I think if I don't remember the title of it. It was a Harmony Korine movie. I think that's how you say his name. Called Julian and Donkey Boy. I think that was the one I'm thinking of. I'm not sure, but it was the one based off of the kid who huffs paint. And there's a part near the end of the movie where um, his mom's giving him a bath, and then some solicitors come to the door to sell candy bars, and she buys her son a candy bar and then gives it to him while he's still in the bath. And it's really odd and kind of gross, I suppose, like a lot of things in his movies. But um, the kid eats the candy bar, and I remember repeatedly watching that scene because it made me really relaxed. And um, there's a couple parts in the movie Sphere that had some quieter conversations. I think Dustin Hoffman had a really relaxing voice that made me tired a lot. And I'm trying to think of the other movies that I watched at the time. Um, well, I can't think of any right now, but eventually I started searching on YouTube for people eating things, and that's what led me to an entire community of. It got so loud I had to pause it. Um, I guess I'll have to check how loud these background noises are when the recording's finished. Um, it may be a lot shorter because of that. So, that's the general summary of how I discovered ASMR, and since that discovery, it's been very beneficial to making me tired and helping me sleep. I definitely have problems falling asleep, but I don't really blame it on anything besides having just a complete lack of discipline when it comes to keeping a regular schedule. I don't know why, but it seems to be very difficult for me compared to other people. And I just cannot go to bed at the same time every night, and I seem to wake up when I get in bed. And um, I've tried all kinds of different things, like not drinking coffee and eating at different times, but even that is difficult for me to keep on a regular schedule. So basically, other ASMR recordings have really helped me get tired when I'm not that tired. I find most of them on YouTube, and then I make MP3s of them. So that um, that is at least my angle on the function of people making recordings, which is something you listen to when you're trying to go to sleep. And I don't usually like YouTube videos on. The light is distracting, whatever screen you're watching it on. And it also wastes a lot of electricity if you care about things like that. So having an MP3 or a podcast like this one on some type of MP3 player or phone seems a lot more useful to me, and you don't have to have green on while you do it. So I looked around, and wow, if you think you live in a quiet, calm place, try to make a recording of any length, and you'll quickly find out how distracting the outside world is, and how many noises and interruptions there are. No. Okay, even more distractions and sound. So I went to look around at different podcasts that were doing ASMR recordings. I didn't really see that many, and that's what inspired me to give it a shot. Um, I think that's some kind of like business motto. When you need something or want something and it's not there and nobody else is doing it, then you should do it. Well, that probably sounded really dumb. Um, oh, yeah, I also will probably try out some rough drafts of stories that I've written, and reading stories out loud or whispering them, I guess, is a really good way to at least measure the flow of your prose and iron out any awkward parts, and just overall it's beneficial for editing. So from time to time when I have things that I've written, I'll probably record it and listen back to it, and I'll share those too. I'm a beginner fiction writer, mostly speculative fiction, and like a little bit of horror, but mostly speculative fiction. So I don't know if you like that or not, if that's really helpful to you. Like I said before, it's meant to make you relax, so in a way, it's not a bad thing if my stories aren't that engaging. Um, that might be the next thing that I record are old flash or short stories that I've written. Flash is usually about 500 to 1,000 words, I think. So those are really short. And I have a few of those pieces that aren't really finished, or they're just in a very rough form that I don't really mind sharing. They're not like thrillers or anything like that, so they should be relaxing. And if you end up liking the stories, then I guess that useful too, although I can't imagine who really wants to hear stories whispered. Although I've seen a few YouTube videos of that, but um, coming up on like the 21.5 minute mark, unedited. I have no idea how much I'll have to edit this out, but that's a pretty good start, at least for anybody who wants to get a feel for this. Please don't judge me on this first recording. It will hopefully be my worst, and the next one I can hone in on the right settings and the right amount of gain for the mic. I also wanted to set the volume level for the MP3 itself really low. That way you can control it a little bit better. I find that things that I'm listening to on my iPod, the minimum volume is still too loud sometimes, and if you're listening to recordings that have lots of sounds and highs in them, like whispering does, and you don't have the best earbuds, it can sound really tinny. So, despite a low volume level, it can still kind of hiss in your ear, and that may be a little bit too much. So, I'm gonna work really hard to make a nice balanced recording that isn't too loud and hopefully you find relaxing. And even if you don't totally fall asleep, maybe a story or a discussion on some kind of topic, I'm open to anything, will make you a little relaxed, and maybe your mind will wander enough to get tired. So, if you made it this far, thank you very much.